Good morning, good morning. It's Sunday, and therefore it is Norma Talks. First, the thing I want to say for any new subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I sincerely appreciate it. And I know there's been quite a few just recently. And also, 1 month from yesterday is Christmas Day. So today would be a month from now, Boxing Day. For those of us in Canada, we still have Boxing Day. I don't know if the US does, or around the world. What I wanted to talk about this morning is the doubter. You know, I haven't really thought too much about the doubter and the objector lately in the work I've been doing. I didn't have it run up, and then all of a sudden, several clients came up with big doubters and objectors. They kind of go hand in hand, and I just want to explain how that works. We think all the time. We probably are not even aware how much thinking we actually do, and that creates our vibrational rate. So the thinking is important. And even though I spend a lot of time dealing with emotions, because most of us don't deal with our feelings in what I consider an appropriate way, so that's where all the blockages tend to be. But we've got to have our mind set in a way that works for us, that creates the vibration that we want to be on. And I've done a lot of work with my own doubters and my own objectors years ago, and also with my clients. And then I've had quite a gap not having to deal with those until recently. So it brought it back into my mind of how much often our own thinking creates the doubt, creates it's like it negates. You have a thought, and I'm going to put it down to where my doubter originally kind of came up and I began to understand it, is when I had a new project or a new thing. I would be all excited about it, and then I would begin to question myself. Could I do it? Was I able to do it? Would it work? All that. That's the doubter inside of us that questions our ability to create our goals, to go forward in the direction that we want to go in. And the thing is that what it does is negate. It negates what we want to do. It undermines us. It gives us a whole sense of, it's impossible. I know I turned down doing a lot of things in the early years before I realized what was happening, that my mind was not working the way I wanted it to, or I wasn't ending up pursuing. I was giving up early. And many of us do that. And also many of us have another aspect, which wasn't going to really touch on too much, and that's the objector. So when we hear something, this is usually from the outside, our mind objects to it. It negates it. Again, a negator. So we have these two aspects of ourselves. The doubter, where we doubt us. We may even doubt everything else that's going on out there as well. But an objector is where we kind of object to it. Like, how could they think that way? Or how could they do that? And so there has a lot of judgment as well within the objector. And I find judgments one of the things that the majority of us tend to have. And we get those from our childhood. We get those from life, where we create these judgments that often have nothing to do with living a really full life. Now, from my perspective over the years, what we really need to do is to really isolate those doubting thoughts, to isolate where they're coming from. Did you pick it up from your environment you grew up in? Did you pick it up because you kept running into circumstances that didn't quite come through the way you wanted? Those are really ongoing situations. And the only way really we can figure it out is really do some self-analysis about it. Or people who see me and I pick it up right away because it'll show up in my sheet, kind of thing that I check, where whatever it is you're wanting to transform, and I check it, and there it is. So, but you can figure out if you're a doubter if you question, when you have a thought and you question it, rather than building on it and creating it in a different way and moving forward and all those things. So it's like when you move into doubting whether you can do a task or a job or setting out on a new adventure, usually what happens, you'll procrastinate. So if you are a procrastinator, underneath, more than likely, there'll be a doubter. Now, I'm going to leave the objector out because it has a little bit of a different look to it. But the key here is to question where and what we are doubting. Do we believe in ourselves? Do we trust ourselves? Yes, I agree. Sometimes we go to do something and it doesn't work, but then you know it doesn't work. It's not that you doubt that it will, but you just find circumstances where it's not really what you want to do, or circumstances are not the right time, or not, because timing sometimes is important if you're doing something that's coming up. But it has to come from personal awareness, being aware of how you think. So let's just discuss thinking for a moment. This is how I teach it. Think of your subconscious mind and think of your conscious mind. And there is oh gosh, the word has gone out of my head. Oh, this getting older. I tell you, sometimes it drives me crazy. Ferris wheel. That's what I was looking for, a Ferris wheel. Think of a Ferris wheel that goes around. And what happens is that a thought in the subconscious will jump on the Ferris wheel and come on up into the consciousness. And so when you're thinking and contemplating, very often that Ferris wheel brings about more. And when you get obsessed with a thought, it's because every seat on that Ferris wheel has the same thought. But usually they have different thoughts that come through. And then when it comes to the consciousness, it goes out, becomes part of your vibration. And that's why we observe our thinking, to find out what we really are thinking. Just sort of sitting back and just observing it. What are those thoughts that are coming through your mind? And when you're first beginning to get a handle on really what your vibration is and how the thinking works, it's very important that you become aware of how you're thinking. So as this comes on up and through, you can see it and you begin. Now, there's other ways. If you have a thought that you don't want, I always say you freeze it, you evaporate it, you replace it with what you do want. So you're beginning to work with your thinking pattern, and the subconscious begins to actually work with that as well. So it becomes really important. But if you have a strong doubter and you have the thought coming out, that doubter kind of overplays that thought pattern. Says, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, that's going to be too hard. Oh, are you really sure that you really want to do that? Like all those sort of doubting thoughts that come in and out. We all have them at times. And I found for myself, thank goodness right now, because my life is fairly workable. I don't really have them. But when I was younger, I sure did. And a lot of them. And I doubted lots of things about myself, my abilities, my crazy thoughts that I would get, and what I was doing. And so as the world is often in a younger way, there's a sense here of really making sure that those thoughts that are going out into your vibrational rate is really workable for you, is really there, so that you're getting back what you really are wanting in relation to your life. What the old saying, what you put out is what you get back. And what we put out consistently all the time, when we're conscious anyway, when we're sleeping, that's a little different. We're doing more inner kind of work. But the consciousness of going out is really important. What you think is what comes back. Maybe not right away, but it builds up. So the more often you have a thought, the more often it grows in intensity and into your vibration, so that it begins to become super aware, and you begin to recognize, oh, I had that thought, and look at that, this happened. Thoughts are important. Trends of thoughts are important. I believe that's the basis of where you go. Then you add in the emotion. But we're not talking so much about emotions today. The thinking process is the base of who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, what you're creating in your life. And sometimes I know I look back and stop and look back and say, are my thoughts constructive? Because it's very easy to slip in thoughts and become and have destructive thoughts. What are destructive thoughts? Anything that doesn't add to the world, add to your life, add. We need to add. Now, on another subject, another time, because I talk a lot about this, is self-forgiveness. So you forgive yourself for having your doubts and thoughts. You forgive yourself for being a certain way and begin to work diligently to watch those thoughts come up. And if you don't like them, freeze, evaporate, replace. Replace with what you do want, even if it's just a little bit more higher. And then you realize after, oh, I need to go and make it even more. Believe in you. If you don't believe in you, who's going to believe in you? Do what makes you happy, what brings you joy. Do what creates an element of, you might say, love in your life. Begin loving yourself. Again, another topic for another day. Well, I usually talk around 10 minutes. We've gone over that. So I just want to say you have a great Sunday. You have a great, I think it's Thanksgiving weekend in the US. So enjoy that. It's also getting ready for Christmas. Lots of Christmas lights going up around where I live. And they are so beautiful and so wonderful. So preparation time. And while you're doing that, just keep an awareness of those thoughts that are coming out, creating your vibrational rate. If you're not happy with your life, that's a good place to begin and to start. I wish you well. I will be back tomorrow night, Monday night, with mental mind treatments. For those that don't know what that is, it's an alternative prayer. And it is, anyway, it's all explained. Just come on to the channel at 7:00 on Monday night, and I'll be there doing and talking and doing these mental mind treatments for people. Wish you well. Have a good time. Thank you. Oh, I've got a comment here from Yvonne. Thank you, Norma. Worth listening to again. John coming in now. Have a great week, Norma. Thank you and blessings. I am having a good week. I had a great health report on Thursday when I went to see people. So more about that on Wednesday for sure, because there's lots of time. You all have a great day. And remember, watch those thoughts. No doubting anymore. You're wonderful, beautiful people. And you're loved. Bye now.